In today's world, the lines between truth and deception are becoming increasingly blurred. False flag operations have been around for centuries, but in recent years, they have taken on a new form. Cyberattacks, propaganda campaigns, and terrorist activities are some of the tools in the arsenal of false flag operations, which make them harder to detect than ever before. In this video, we will take a deep dive into the world of false flag operations in information warfare. First, let's define what we mean by false flag operations. Simply put, it is any situation in which a crisis is staged to look like it was carried out by an unauthorized party. These operations can be carried out in a variety of ways, and their goal is to cause chaos and confusion. One example of a false flag operation is a terrorist attack. The attackers may stage the attack to look like it was carried out by a group other than their own. Another example of a false flag operation is when a government stages an attack on its own people. The government may do this to gain a strategic advantage, influence public opinion, or provide cover for military operations. Cyberattacks are also a common form of false flag operations. These attacks can be carried out to make it look like they were carried out by another country or group. The goal is to cause chaos and confusion, as well as damage the reputation of the targeted group or individual. Propaganda campaigns are another form of false flag operations. These campaigns can be used to spread false information about a person or group, as well as influence public opinion. They can be carried out through social media, news outlets, or even through paid influencers. Now, let us look at the history of false flag operations. False flag operations have been around for centuries and continue to evolve in complexity. As the lines between truth and deception become increasingly blurred, it is essential to stay informed and maintain a critical eye. False flag operations were often used to gain an advantage in battle or to justify military actions. Privateers and pirates in naval warfare would fly the flag of another country to trick their opponents. As time went on, governments and intelligence agencies began using false flag operations to achieve their goals. During the American Revolution, both the British and American colonists used false flag operations. In one instance, British forces dressed up as Native Americans and attacked a supply depot in New York, hoping to blame Native American tribes and stir up anti-American sentiments. False flag operations became even more common in the 1800s due to colonialism and imperial expansion. European countries used false flag operations to justify their invasion and takeover of Africa and Asia. In 1897, the British launched a false flag operation to justify their invasion of Benin in West Africa. British officials claimed that the native Beninese had attacked their expedition, but it was later revealed that the attack had been planned and carried out by the British. The Nazi regime was notorious for using false flag operations, and one of the most notable was Operation Himmler. In 1939, Nazi Germany sought to invade Poland, but it needed a pretext to justify its aggression. To achieve this, it carried out Operation Himmler, a covert operation in which German agents posed as Polish soldiers and attacked a German radio station near the border. The agents sent out a message in Polish that was against Germany, which was later used as a justification for the invasion of Poland on September 1, 1939. This false flag operation was intended to make it seem like Poland was the aggressor and that Germany was acting in self-defense. The operation allowed Germany to gain public support for the invasion and paved the way for the start of World War II. However, the truth about Operation Himmler was eventually exposed, and the role of false flag operations in global conflicts has since come under increased scrutiny. The Gulf of Tonkin incident was another false flag event which occurred during the Vietnam War and involved the U.S. government staging an attack to justify their involvement in the war. It was the year 1964, and tensions were high in the Gulf of Tonkin, off the coast of Vietnam. Reports of 2 attacks carried out by North Vietnamese patrol boats against American military warships would prove to be the trigger for a chain of events that would lead to greater American involvement in the war. The USS Maddox, a U.S. Navy destroyer, was on a reconnaissance mission on August 2, 1964, when it was attacked by North Vietnamese torpedo boats. 2 days later, the USS Maddox and another destroyer, the USS Turner Joy, reported another attack. The incident served as a justification for the U.S. government to pass the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution and escalate its bombing campaign against North Vietnam. But as the fog of war began to clear, it became apparent that the second attack on American naval vessels had been staged. The supposed radar signals that had made people think there was a second attack were in fact caused by weather and misreadings. However, the damage had already been done, and the event had emboldened the U.S. to become much more deeply involved in the Vietnam War. The Gulf of Tonkin incident remains a controversial and debated event in history, a testament to the complexity of geopolitics and the murky waters of warfare. It reminds us to always question what we are told, and to seek the truth even in the face of great power and authority. But one of the most notorious false flag operations in recent history was Operation Northwoods. In the 1960s, the U.S. government devised a plan called Operation Northwoods. It was intended to be a justification for the invasion of Cuba, which the U.S. government saw as a potential threat to U.S. interests. As part of the plan, the U.S. government proposed several false flag operations. The idea was to carry out attacks against U.S. military outposts, as well as civilian targets in Cuba, and then shift the blame for those attacks on the Cuban government. This would make it look like Cuba was attacking the U.S., giving the U.S. an excuse to invade. Operation Northwoods featured some unorthodox plans, such as hijacking American planes and blaming Cuba for it, or staging an attack on a U.S. military base with fake deaths to make it look like Cuba was invading. The strategy also included propaganda campaigns aimed at getting the public to support an invasion of Cuba. Thankfully, Operation Northwoods never came to fruition. President John F. Kennedy declined to use the strategy because he believed it was too dangerous and could have resulted in a full-scale war with the Soviet Union. Operation Northwoods serves as an example of how far governments will go to justify war. It highlights the danger of false flag operations and the importance of politicians making clear and responsible decisions. This event reminds us of the need to be vigilant and critical of the information presented to us, and to always question the motives behind political decisions. Now that we have explored the history of false flag operations, you need to understand the mechanics. What does it take to pull off a false flag operation? To carry out a successful false flag operation, precision is key. To execute these undercover ops with precision, there are specific steps that must be taken. So the first step in planning a false flag operation is to identify the objective. The objective is the reason for the operation, and it must be significant enough to justify it. The objective could be to create fear, gain public support, or to achieve a certain plan. Once the objective is identified, the next step is to select a target. The target could be a person, group, institution, or even a country that is seen as a threat or an obstacle to achieving the objective. The target selection is crucial, as it determines the level of public support and the severity of the consequences of the operation. The planning stage is perhaps the most crucial step in the entire process. The operation must be carefully planned and executed to avoid detection. This involves developing a detailed plan that outlines how the operation will be carried out, who will be involved, and what resources will be needed. The plan must be flexible enough to adapt to unforeseen circumstances. A cover story is an essential part of any false flag operation. It is a false narrative that is used to explain the event to the public. The cover story must be convincing and give a good reason for what happened that fits with the goals of the operation. The cover story can be backed up by physical evidence, accounts from eyewitnesses, and testimony from experts. Depending on the scale of the operation, different types of resources may be needed. These could include personnel, weapons, technology, or financing. It's important to secure these resources in a way that doesn't arouse suspicion. Secrecy is the key to avoiding detection. After everything is in place, it's time to execute the operation. This could be done by making a fake attack, staging a fake event, or changing information to give the wrong impression. The execution must be carefully carried out to avoid detection. Finally, after the operation is carried out, it's essential to control the narrative. Propaganda is used to manipulate public opinion. This involves managing the information that is released to the public and shaping the way the event is perceived. It's crucial to ensure that the false story is accepted as true and that any evidence to the contrary is suppressed. Well, I wouldn't tell you how to successfully plan a false flag operation without giving you the necessary tools to detect them. So it begs the question, what are some of the strategies that we can use to detect false flag operations and protect the truth? It is a well-known fact that several governments have employed false flag operations to manipulate public opinion, further political goals, and even provide a pretext for going to war. These events can have catastrophic effects on our society, and it is important to recognize them. However, it is becoming increasingly difficult to identify false flag operations due to the proliferation of technology and the internet. So how can we protect the truth and detect false flag operations? Let's explore some uncommon strategies that can be used to identify these events. First, let's consider the motives of the alleged perpetrator. When investigating an event, it's important to determine whether the reasons given for the crime are consistent with the actions that were carried out. If the accused has nothing to gain from the crime, or if their actions contradict their claimed views or intentions, it could be a hint that the event was staged as part of a false flag operation. In short, we need to ask ourselves, does the motive for the event make sense? If not, it's possible that the event was staged. Next, let's examine the evidence for inconsistencies. False flag operations often involve tampering with evidence and information, which can make it difficult to distinguish between what is true and what is not. We need to look for things that don't make sense or add up, like discrepancies between different pieces of evidence. We must be wary of forged documents and manipulated photos and videos, as they can be powerful tools for creating false narratives. Finally, it's important to analyze all available information when dealing with conflicting or incomplete data. False flag operations can be so muddled by contradictory or missing data that it's hard to determine what really happened. By carefully analyzing all the information that is accessible, like reports from eyewitnesses, government statements, and other types of evidence, we may be able to identify contradictions or gaps in the available data that suggest the event was staged. Detecting false flag operations is not an easy task, but by looking at the motives of the alleged perpetrator, searching for inconsistencies in the evidence, and analyzing all available information, we can increase our chances of uncovering the truth. Detecting false flag operations requires a careful examination of the available information. It's important to verify the truth by conducting independent research and fact-checking. This involves reviewing all available material, checking its veracity, and cross-checking it with other sources. In addition to examining the information, it's essential to identify the credibility of the sources. This means analyzing any potential biases or conflicts of interest, and investigating the motives of those providing the information. It's crucial to consider any potential agendas that may be driving their actions. Analyzing the alleged motive behind the event is also critical in detecting false flag operations. It's important to examine the stated goals and objectives of those accused of carrying out the operation and determining whether their actions align with their motives. It's also crucial to consider alternative motives and investigate any potential ulterior motives that may be driving their actions. By conducting a thorough investigation and fact-checking all available information, we can help ensure that the information that is presented is accurate and reliable. Stay vigilant and always question the information presented to you, and together we can work towards protecting the truth. In the final segment of this video, we're going to explore the consequences of these manipulative tactics and why it's crucial to remain vigilant and engaged in critical thinking. False flag operations can have a significant impact on the media, leading to the spread of false information and propaganda that can shape public opinion. The aftermath of false flag operations can also lead to the restriction of civil liberties and increased government surveillance. This can create a climate of fear and suspicion, making it difficult for individuals to exercise their rights and freedoms. False flag operations are often accompanied by a media campaign designed to promote a particular narrative. This can include the manipulation of images and videos, the spread of false information, and the use of propaganda to shape public opinion. The media has the power to shape the public's perception of events and influence their decision-making. False flag operations can lead to a loss of trust in the media and create confusion and uncertainty among the public. The consequences of false flag operations can extend to individual rights and freedoms. In the aftermath of such operations, laws and regulations may be put in place that restrict individual rights and freedoms under the guise of security measures. This can have long-lasting effects on the lives of ordinary citizens and can erode the foundations of democratic societies. As we have learned, false flag operations can have a devastating impact on international relations, media, and individual rights and freedoms. One of the most troubling outcomes is the government's use of false flag operations as a means to increase surveillance and restrict civil liberties. The aftermath of a false flag event can cause individuals to fear exercising their rights, creating a climate of suspicion and unease. It is therefore crucial to remain vigilant and engage in critical thinking when evaluating the information presented to us. This includes being skeptical of official narratives and questioning the motives behind events, particularly in situations where there are conflicting or incomplete pieces of information. By staying informed about current events and engaging in independent research and fact-checking, we can protect ourselves from the potential consequences of false flag operations. It is also essential to remain critical of information presented by the media or government officials and to promote transparency and accountability. As individuals, we must work towards preventing false flag operations from being used to deceive and manipulate the public. By promoting critical thinking and vigilance, we can create a more open and democratic society where the rights and freedoms of all individuals are respected and protected. Thank you for watching and taking the time to learn more about false flag operations and their implications. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, stay vigilant.